This is Zero Signal, where security leaders stop waiting for certainty and start leading through it. I'm Conor Sherman.
And I'm Stuart Mitchell.
Let's get into it. Zero Signal is brought to you by Sysdig. Threat actors are compromising cloud accounts in under 8 minutes. Vulnerabilities are being exploited within 10 hours of disclosure. That's the defender's window, and it keeps closing. Attackers aren't waiting on dashboards. They go straight for what's running. Real time is the only timeline that matters. And that's why Forrester named Sysdig a leader in its latest wave for the cloud-native application protection platforms. Runtime is where real risk shows up, and runtime is what Sysdig is built for. So stop watching and start defending. Learn more at sysdig.com and check out the link in the description. Today on Zero Signal, we're speaking with Josh Woodruff, the creator of the Agentic Trust Framework, the co-chair of the Cloud Security Alliance Zero Trust Working Group, the founding chair of the CSAI Foundation, and the co-author of the Agentic AI plus Zero Trust, written with John Kindervag, who coined Zero Trust himself. We're diving into Zero Trust for AI agents, 5 questions to anchor your AI security strategy, and how CISOs can have a shot at being a transformational leader in this moment, so that you as a security leader can walk into your next board conversation and be able to say yes to AI, putting agents into production with a model that you can defend, owning the transformation instead of being run over by it. Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show. Let's bust right into it.
Love it. Thanks for having me.
So today I've got a bunch of things stacked up for you, and I love this conversation because basically I get to ask all the questions that I want to ask as an operating global CISO to the guy who literally wrote the book. So I really want to get into this, and we're going to go really deep into Zero Trust, what this means for AI agents, how this shows up in an enterprise today. But first, I would love it if you could just start by grounding us. What does Zero Trust for these AI agents actually mean? And we'll divorce that from all the marketing stuff that we see at RSA and we will about to see at Black Hat. So ground us in what is this framework and why is it different and how is it similar to traditional models of Zero Trust?
I think the Zero Trust fundamentals don't change, right? It's still never trust, always verify, assume breach, least privilege, all of these things still apply. That's why it's such a perfect fit. I think the fundamentals apply more now than ever. What's different is, originally this was meant to secure access for humans, right? And we know what humans do. We know when they act bad, and we learn to trust them. Their behavior is consistent most of the time. So I think Zero Trust was always designed for granting access to humans. It did work for non-humans, service accounts, API keys, things like this that were consistent and deterministic. So all of these things are still good, and Zero Trust is still I'll be biased. It's the best security strategy out there. I think it's the only one that's comprehensive. And as you know, Conor, it's really kind of the only security strategy that exists, because before Zero Trust, we were just winging it. All of us as CISOs just, you knew you had to do a few things. This kind of sets a framework. It's got all of these fundamentals, and they all apply. What's different with agentic AI is it's now probabilistic. It's a stochastic system. It's not a service account or an API or even a human. It is a non-human entity that reasons and acts and takes decisions and chains calls 30 API calls together in a way that we're not in control. When you give an AI agent, and I'm sure everybody on this podcast knows what an AI agent is, but just to say what it is, it's an LLM with a goal and a tool, right? And it runs in a loop until it achieves that goal. But you don't have any control over when it decides that goal has been accomplished. Once you give it the goal and the tool or tools to accomplish its goal, it's going to run in a loop until it decides it's done. When it's running in that loop, it's making tool calls, it's getting data, it's reasoning about that data, it's pulling in more context, it's making more tool calls. It learns and adapts as it's operating, and you really don't have any control of what it's actually going to do. So now the Zero Trust model applies, but there's a whole different avenue to it. There's a whole different aspect, and I would call it intent. Zero Trust secures the access, right? You've got a secure tunnel from the requester to the service, What you don't have is intent. You don't know if it's prompt injection being passed through that secure connection. And that's the big difference. And that's why the Agentic Trust Framework was needed. It adapts the same zero trust fundamentals of never trust, always verify, to entities that reason and act on their own.
So one of the things that you laid out, and I kind of really want to go into this framework. So thank you for setting the stage on that, because I think it's really important everyone kind of groks this idea that like we're replatforming our businesses from something that is predictable to systems that are inherently not predictable, like humans. And you get this upside benefit with this creativity, you this goal orientation, this ability to work around edge cases. Like that's a good thing, but in there lies the very much the risk that comes with it, right?
Yeah.
And you have this way of talking about how you can take an AI agent and you can graduate them through a process. Walk us through that again as well, because I think that's a really important thing, because often when I'm talking with CISOs, the conversation really is, does thou agent AI or not, right? It becomes very binary. It becomes almost biblical. It's like, are you doing it or are you not doing it? Thou shalt this, thou shalt not. And you've actually put like this stair step function in there. So walk us through that and then also unpack why we need something like that and why, because that's different than what we got with the traditional zero trust architecture that we got from the NIST publications.
It is. It is. Yeah. And it's so funny, Connor, and you guys probably see this. I certainly do. And I'm guilty of it myself. When I first looked at agentic AI, it's like, whoa, this is probabilistic. It's stochastic. It's never going to say the same things twice. How are we going to secure this? Guess what? That's what a human is. And we secured them, or we've tried, and zero trust is the right model for that. So yes, it's more similar to a human than a service account. It's not deterministic and static and data in, data out. You can unit test it and you're going to get the same thing. So I like to use, in the book, we describe this, the Agentic Trust Framework. It looks at AI agents as kind of digital colleagues or digital coworkers. Think of them as a colleague because it's going to reason, it's going to act, it's going to reason again, and it's going to work its way to accomplish goals that it's been given. And it can be influenced. It can be pulled off track. It could be given an instruction you didn't want it to get that slips in. So all of the fundamentals of zero trust apply, but the framework thinks about AI agents as digital colleagues or digital coworkers. And there's 5 questions. And then to your point, there's 4 what I call autonomy progression levels. You promote the agent. But stepping back at the widest level, this is really, it's not another framework. And for all of us security professionals out there, do we really need another framework? My God, we're overloaded with frameworks.
There's my favorite XKCD cartoon. It's like, there are 12 frameworks out there. We need one that's going to unify them. Like 6 months later, there are 13 frameworks now.
It's right. Or same with standards. That's plural. Why is it plural? Isn't it a standard?
That's a good point.
Totally get that.
Theoretically, should zero trust actually be easier for agents because they act more rationally and less emotionally than humans do?
One could argue that. Yes. I mean, at least there's the malicious intent isn't intentional. It's steered. It's influenced. It's either the goal's been manipulated, the data's been poisoned. There's a lot of abstractions that steer the behavior of the agent. I did want to say with the framework, I want to acknowledge that I'm not trying to throw another framework because I myself am overloaded, but this is really an operating model. And to what you said, Conor, the operating model is not only it's 5 questions, it's 4 levels of progression. There's promotion criteria, and so we'll go into all of that. But I like to compare what do you mean operating model? How is this different than others? If you know about Maestro, the Agentic AI threat modeling framework from Cloud Security Alliance, Maestro tells you what to worry about. OWASP tells you what the threats are, what can go wrong. NIST tells you the principles. Even Cloud Security Alliance's AI control matrix, the AICM, tells you what the controls are. The Agentic Trust Framework tells you what to do about it. None of these tell you what to do. They all say, here's what to be afraid of, the controls and the models. And, okay, well, what do I do about it? The Agentic Trust Framework is what to do about it. You use these threat models and risk assessments to identify gaps. You use the Agentic Trust Framework to fill those gaps. And when you think about AI agents as autonomous entities, as a digital colleague, the 5 questions, I'll just run right into the 5 questions, Connor. I'm going to get to the promotion criteria, but I feel like the 5 questions.
Let's start with the 5 questions. I think it's actually really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
this is really important.
The concept is, again, digital colleague. So who are you? What are you doing? Where can you go? What are you eating and what are you serving? And what if you go rogue? And they will go rogue. They are not going to do what you expect. You can never describe a perfect goal and have it operate perfectly, and it's never going to do it the same way twice. So, okay, that's weird. What these sound weird. Like, what do you mean? So, who are you is identity, right? And that's the fundamental thing. And where can you go is segmentation. What are you doing is behavior. What are you eating and what are you serving is data inputs, data outputs, data governance. What if you go rogue is incident response and kill switches, sub-second kill switches, because these things move at machine speed. So there's a lot more detail in each of the 5 questions. There's 25 normative requirements in the spec, which is on GitHub. You can also find it on the site, agentictrustframework.ai. So there's 25 normative requirements, and underlying there's a little bit more controls, like 81 controls, but they're all around identity, cryptographic, verifiable, unforgeable identity, right? Behavioral monitoring, like what's normal and how do you know when it's not normal? Segmentation, it's the classic segmentation. How do you minimize blast radius and make sure that the agent can only go where you really want it to go? Data governance. I mean, all of these things have, there's more detail buried under the simplicity, but the simplicity is deceivingly simple because these 5 questions mask a comprehensive zero trust framework. And you mentioned the progression. Call it a maturity model because we love to come up with maturity models. You always want to start as an intern. And so again, these 4 models, you're an intern, you're a junior, you're a senior, and you're a principal. Wow, sounds like titles. That's right. Again, reasoning about these things as entities, as a digital colleague, they should start as an intern, and think about what you give your intern on the first day on the job, right? You're going to give them the keys to the CEO's office and the Lamborghini out front and the goal to solve world hunger. Like, an intern can't do that. Like, they're just starting out. They need to
take the coffee order and see what we can do, right? See if they can get the coffee order right.
And make sure that it comes back. Is it the right temperature? Did they get the right cup? Is it caffeinated? Like, the basics. Like, they got to prove the basics. 100%, Stu. So I think that's great. And it makes sense, right? When you think about it this way, it's like, oh, of course, we would want to start our agents off with very limited scope, a small amount of tools, and we would review every single thing it does. Human is like completely around everything this thing does, and it's really not allowed to take action. And what these 4 models are, what these 4 levels are, it's an autonomy progression. So each rung on the ladder, it gets more and more autonomy. So as a junior, it gets a little bit more autonomy. Maybe you allow it to take a few actions, but you're still going to review it. And maybe you give it a couple more tools. When it gets promoted to a senior, maybe it gets a few more tools. Maybe it gets a little bit bigger of an objective, and you're not reviewing everything. You're just maybe sampling. And at the principal level, of course, it's fully autonomous, but still human in the loop. You're more reviewing and oversight on audit findings, things like this. So it's a progression of autonomy, and it's not over time. Like, I think that's a big difference too. With humans, it's just time based, right? Oh, you intern learns what to do over time; they get smarter. I mean, this requires real intentional effort to tune the agent, give it better system prompts, tweak the model, maybe tune the model. Whatever you need to do, you're actively influencing the agent to help it progress to these next levels. And the promotion criteria, it's earned. So autonomy is earned; it's not granted, and it's earned through these levels. And you get promoted through demonstrated reliability, a security audit, operational behavior, like a clean operational record. And I think the other one that I love, if you look at the promotion criteria, is 5 dimensions. The last one is a human who will stake their reputation on that promotion. So it makes it very explicit, and it quantifies these promotions.
who is making the call or building the framework for this promotion criteria? Do you typically see it as a CISO? Do you see it as an engineering leader? Is this a CEO? Like who builds this foundation for promotion criteria?
Yeah, it's a good question, and this is a suggested guide.
Yeah.
It's kind of a place to start. Just like any framework or operating model, I think it's gives you some rough parameters to start with. On the site, we do have very specific quantifiable numbers and metrics across all 5 dimensions that you could start with. But do those make sense for your business, for your agents, for your data, for your access patterns, for your business? So it does really, it depends on what the agent's doing, what's the sensitivity of the data, what's the exposure? Is it talking to customers? Is it dealing with money? Is it dealing with sensitive data? Then you're probably going to want to have some security involvement. Is it just pure R&D and capabilities that your software that it's adding to your software? Then maybe it's a CTO driven thing. If it's interacting with lead generation or qualifying sales, then you probably want your salespeople involved. So it all depends. Like the dimensions of promotion depend on what that agent is doing, what it's exposed to, and the impact it could have to your business.
Zero Signal is brought to you by Hampton North. I've been responsible for building and turning around cybersecurity programs for companies where a lapse in security just isn't an option. Finance, high tech, AI. Different domains, but the same truth. The programs live and die on talent. And no strategy ships without the right people who share the right DNA. That's why I partner with Hampton North. I've built 3 cybersecurity teams with them, and every time they move faster than anyone else without sacrificing quality. While other agencies are still pushing paperwork, Hampton North already had vetted candidates in front of me. Their executive search is not one size fits all. With one of the largest networks of security leaders in the US, their leadership roles hit the market in days, sometimes hours. And their go-to-market practice covers CROs, CMOs, revenue leaders, and full team build-outs for scaling cybersecurity businesses. They meet every candidate, they reference every story. If you're ready to build and scale and grow your security program, go to hamptonnorth.com and see why brands like Clear, Instacart, Airtable, and OpenAI trust Hampton North to build great teams. Check out the link in the description. So one of the things I like about this promotion, and one of the reasons this really resonated with me, I've read countless perspectives on how to kind of navigate this problem space. And the one I really grokked with this is I really like this intern, junior, senior principle. And one of the reasons it really resonated with me was because not only is it commonsensical and you can measure it and you can put time boundaries, you can put behavior boundaries on this, and you can have better evals, you can do the whole thing. That's really important. But it actually aligns with a lot of the leadership books and philosophies that I've read over time. And anyone who's been in my org long enough will, for any period of time, knows about intent-based leadership. And intent-based leadership was this book that came out, and from the Turn the Ship Around. It's an excellent read for everyone who's listening. But it's fundamentally all about balancing competence and capability. So what you're saying is, as you have more domain expertise, as you have that, you want to be giving them more permission. And then there's this whole language that comes around it where you want to move away from a permission-based model to an intent-based model. And this is a great way for getting the best out of your humans, out of your people. And I really love that framework. And as you were describing this world, and when you go from an intern where you observe and report, all right, that kind of like aligns with that framework. And then it goes junior, you're going to recommend and then approve. And then you have a senior where you act and notify. And for me, that was like, okay, now we're getting into intent. Like you've got someone who understands the context. You have someone who's got the demonstrated capabilities. We've now given you the autonomy to go do something, but you're still going to put a prompt up there and say, give me a notification. Hey, I'm about to go do this. If you want to intervene, feel free, but I'm off to the races. And that intent-based leadership, I just saw map so nicely to this promotion framework you're going on. So I wanted to underscore why this framework resonated really well, because for me, it also allowed me to look back on all the books I've been reading for the last 15 years on being a better human leader and be able to steal some of those principles and map them over to here.
I also think it adds to the fact that it adds some, I think as non-technical leaders, they feel more comfortable with a human element to it. And it kind of, with that promotion I guess, criteria, it makes them feel more humanized in the same way they put faces on robots, right? Because it makes people feel more familiar. I guess flipping the script, when someone is doing very well at work, they get promoted. Do you create frameworks for poor performance by agents, which is disciplinary and termination, which would happen in the same way from a human perspective?
Yeah, and I think that's there is a clear demotion criteria, and it's immediate. And you do need the business continuity, the disaster recovery, all these things still apply. But I think that's really where there's so much change in this space. Whatever you build, both the architecture, the policies, everything needs to be adaptable and adjustable because things are changing so rapidly. Your agent may work perfectly fine on one model, and there's the next version of the model, or maybe you've switched models, maybe you've gone to on-prem models or the new frontier model. They can operate, they're going to interpret and take action possibly completely differently. So you always need to be ready to give them a demotion or immediately pull them out of service and have a fallback. So fire them. Yeah. I mean, I guess you pull off their autonomy and you tune them and back to your evals, and then you rehire them once they prove them. But you can never give an AI agent, you never interview them. You don't give them background checks or criminal citizen verifications, right? Nobody does anything. They're born on a laptop in a developer room, typically.
So there's actually two components to that I want to get your take on. And the first one is there is a precondition to be able to do this, which is about having a registry of agents. In the same way that we have a registry of employees, by that we have an HRIS system, we have this, we know that, okay, our payroll systems, right? There's nothing more authoritative than that. So you look at that. So there is this. I'm kind of curious where you think in registry system shows up in this. What are some of the challenges when you're trying to do this at scale? Could you expand on that? What's your experience been with this as people start to roll this out to an enterprise?
It's such a good point. And I think as any company, raise your hand if you have a perfect CMDB. I know about all my assets and all the configuration items. Like, yeah, right. Nobody has a perfect handle on their assets. I mean, we all try, and there's some great disciplines to help do that. It's no different with AI agents. I think the difference with AI agents as an inventory or a registry is you need to know what each has access to, and you need to know what the impact of that access is. So a registry is super critical. Shadow AI is a real problem, right? Folks going off it. The industry is moving so fast. It's made it so easy to create AI agents in every different pocket of the business. No code, like it's all through UI. Like your sales team can build them, your marketing team, the legal team, your accounting team, procurement's building agents, which is great. I think that's some good value. But you asset management becomes even more critical because now you're introducing new hires that never got background checked, right? And what's the scope? And are they allowed to see the data that they've been granted? What account are they running under? What's their identity? And how are you applying an identity-based security policy to them? There's so many questions that come up. I think at scale, there are some automated platforms that are starting to emerge on inventory management. Some of the RSAC Innovation Sandbox this year, I would say about half of those, the finalists, were all about detecting shadow AI and governing AI agents in an easy to discover way. And even some of the incumbents are all trying to come up with big solutions to inventory and classify and categorize your AI agents. So more critical than ever, and at scale, this is the difficult part. And this is where I always like to say AI and agentic AI is an opportunity for security to become a producer of value. It's like I tell every security professional I can, don't miss this opportunity. Get in the driver's seat. Don't say no, say how. And, what Gartner says by 2027, 40% of all agentic AI efforts will fail. And why? Why will they fail? Because they don't have governance, because they're not done right. They'll never ship to production. This is security's opportunity to apply governance to what you're doing, including asset inventory and categorization, classification, access rights, make it identity based, make sure you have this identity system. Ask those 5 questions for every single AI agent. If you can't answer them, you know where your gap is. Once you've got that, you may slow the business down at first as you're doing the first or second or third agent in this new way, but you slow down to speed up, because now once you've got those railroad tracks laid down, once you've got the ability to apply and answer the 5 questions through strong identity, behavioral monitoring, anomaly detection, incident response, a lot of which you probably already have, tuning it and tweaking it for AI agents, now you can ship more agents than your competitor. You can get them all the way to production. Now security is adding value, and security is enabling innovation. In fact, I like to say constraints are rocket fuel. Constraints are rocket fuel. And what I mean by this is when you have a governance, an effective governance model, you're putting a roll cage around your ability to develop and ship AI agents. Now you can take corners at 200 miles an hour. You're not the brake pedal. You're the thing that lets it go faster. And more secure agents are better agents. They actually perform better. Think about how agents work and this whole lost in the middle, if you've ever heard of this, where too much context confuses the LLM. Like, every turn it gets dumber, right? Because it's populating its context and it starts to get confused. A more constrained agent is not only more secure and your roll cage is tighter, it has less to get confused by, less tools to choose from. It's got a smaller scope of a goal. So therefore, it actually delivers better. It's more performant and it's more secure. It's like a win-win. These are the opportunities I tell security leaders, do not pass this up.
That's such a good point. That's such a good point about the focus of these agents.
It's like
the
the
agent that does
line.
everything is an agent that does nothing.
Right.
Yeah. Putting my European hat on here, because let's do that. Like, do you actually think like regulation would drive innovate, like done right, because that's the most important part and the balance. But like, let's say there was some formal regulations around agent usage. Do you see that as like a net positive if it was done right to drive innovation and reduce that 40% number, maybe to like a much higher percentage of success?
I do in some respects. I mean, even with your EU AI hat on, the EU AI Act, it doesn't say a lot about agentic yet. I'm sure it will soon.
Yeah.
And even NIST with AI RMF, not a lot about agentic, a lot about generative AI. So I think they do need to catch up with agentic, but it's hard, right? So I guess the short answer, Stu, I would say yes. I think regulation is a good thing in general. Let's all make sure we're doing this right. How do you make sure your business partners, your suppliers, your customers that you're dealing with, are they using AI in the right way? Because as we know, transitive trust is a whole new attack vector. Look at the Drift breach last year, 700 companies, customer data stolen because of a OAuth refresh token somebody grabbed and made their way in because in today's market, it's not like you need to trust your vendors. You're trusting your vendors and their vendors and their vendors. Like, it's this transitive trust world that we live in is very high risk and attacker. This is a whole new attack vector we're seeing be exploited. Regulations help that, right? Like, regulations make sure folks are doing the right things the right way. So in some respects, I think that's good. It allows you to better trust your providers, your partners, that, if they can prove that they're compliant with a given regulation, that's great. I do think we can go overboard with too much regulation. And with EU, I think you'll hear the folks there say it slows them down.
Yeah.
It's a balancing act, right? It's how much regulation is too much, how much is restrictive versus enabling. And that, coming back to this Agentic Trust Framework, the whole point is to accelerate. There's 5 questions that help you accelerate delivering Agentic AI into production. Regulation should be part of that. So I think it's needed. I think it's an evolving act that we're all learning here with this whole new technology. I think we need to keep learning, but we need to keep revisiting the balance. Is it too restrictive? Is it doing the right thing? We need to constantly be checking that. I think industry and things like this podcast and us talking, and I'm listening to your podcast, it's exactly these kind of things where folks should be questioning, always question, contribute to the solution. Don't just wait for it, because we're formulating the solution right now, actively, all of us together. So,
Conor, I would love you just got back from an event in Europe just a week ago. Like, what Was the feeling over-regulation? Was it excitement around innovation? Like, obviously, you spend most of your time in the US, so maybe going to an event in Amsterdam, like maybe had you feeling different type of way about it?
It was pretty amazing. So I was in Amsterdam. I was in a room with 10 other CISOs, and we had a cyber advisory board that we were running through, peer sharing, that kind of thing, right? What's working in you? And these are some of the larger institutions in Europe, and they've got massive cloud infrastructure. They're looking at AI across the largest bureaucracies, and they're like, how do we handle this? And what I found was that, or my takeaway, my personal takeaway after talking for 3 days with these folks is that this goes back to what you said, Josh. They are looking for opportunities to be change agents in their organization. They are looking for mechanisms to say, I want to be the executive who answers the question how, not the one who says no. That was the energy. And the rest of it became mechanics. It becomes, how do you do this at scale where you've got tens of thousands? How do you do this when you're supporting a national military? Like, how do you do this when you're dealing with some of the largest bureaucracies in the area that go through that? And we navigated that. And one of the things that we were really focused on was around understanding the activity of the agents, right? And this is like one of the things I like about the Zero Trust framework is you gives you these 5 different dimensions to really scope around that. But so many people out there in the market, or when I talk to other CISOs, they're not really thinking about what the agent does. They're just still kind of stuck on like, do I see the agent? Do I understand the model? They're kind of like where we were 2 years ago with AI governance. And what I saw in that room was they were desperately leaning into like, how do I become the leader who says yes in a defendable, repeatable way that can scale?
I think that's the challenge of our time right now. Love that.
And I think it segues quite nicely into like something that we wanted to talk about today, which is kind of the thoughts on the opportunity for, and it comes up a lot in this, which is this is the opportunity for the CISO to like genuinely become a transformational leader, and that's not always been the case. Some folks have risen above what the status quo was, but I think this is a real opportunity. Um, we talked when we were kind of preparing for this that like the failure to get ROI from AI is a leadership problem. I'd love to kind of get your take on that. And obviously the CISO is a big role in this, as CISOs are now like 96% of CISOs, I believe, are owning AI governance. So it's a big part of it. But, walk me through like, how does a zero trust operating model for agents turn a CISO from like gatekeeper into driving the AI transformation? And how does that get them into the big seat?
Yeah. And I think you see so much failure of ROI. I think there's a few problems that's happening. They're all converging. It's a misunderstanding of what AI does. I think not only will folks deploy an agent at principal level on day one because they're under so much pressure to just get a return on AI and get it to work. They're just like, oh, like, remember the old DBA days? Just give me root because I'm a DBA. I need to do all these things, right? And I need to get this thing to work. It's almost like we're at that stage again with agentic AI. So I think that's a problem where folks are giving too much privilege just to get it to work. And I think another problem folks are doing is they don't clean the house before they drop the AI in, and they think the AI is going to clean the house. Oh, my house is a mess. Don't worry, AI will fix it. AI does all these things. I just drop it in, right? It's going to fix. Like they fail to realize it amplifies. It will amplify whatever you put it in. If you've got clean, well-structured data, labeled and classified, it's going to amplify your ability to use that data. If your house is a mess, it's going to amplify that mess. It's going to make it even messier. And I think leadership, I'm seeing a trend that they're starting to get this. And I think that education is starting to get out. But a lot of times it's not the tool, it's not the tech, it's not AI, it's what you pointed it at is why the failures are happening. And it's also because security wasn't in the room. Well, security is going to slow me down. I don't have time to go through that whole process. The review is slow. I'm under pressure to do AI right now. I got this great new thing. I got it right at my disposal. I can ship this thing out. And then you're in pilot purgatory. Can never get out of pilot. It's not secure. It's not compliant. It's not auditable, explainable. You can't answer the 5 questions, right? So I think there's a number of things going on. And I like to say that the failure of AI ROI is a leadership failure because it requires governance. It requires a strategy. It requires a tops-down directive of we're all going to learn, and I'm going to learn along with you. I mean, hell, even I wrote this framework and I wrote this book. I run agent labs, multi-agent systems, and I always want to do security first. And I gave my lab, it's an open cloud lab, because I'm like, if I can secure this, this is great. I'm going to secure this with the Agentic Trust Framework. And I locked it down so tight, and I gave my Orchestrator, which is the frontier model, a really big job. Just go do this, dispatch it, delegate it. All the agents are going to work together with local models and frontier models. It's going to be beautiful. When I came back the next morning, I had a $300 API bill because the Orchestrator couldn't get the delegated agents to work right because I had them too tightly constrained. Like, they were too tight. The security was too strong. And it said, oh, no problem. I'll just do it myself. And it replicated itself 47 times. It made 47 copies of itself, and it just went to town, and it got it done. And it was actually quite good, but way overpriced. And so just me in my own lab with like a handful of agents, knowing that constraints are rocket fuel, knowing there's the right way to do this, I screwed it up, right? And so think about that at scale with hundreds or thousands or millions. I mean, they're talking billions of agents are going to be out there.
Yeah.
We talked about this with Microsoft and others. So yes, there's a lot of learning to be had. It really requires leadership. It requires tolerance for experimentation, mistakes. That's why it's so much more important to follow the progression. Make your mistakes when the mistakes are small and simple. Learn at the intern level, and then maybe the junior level. Do pilots. Another zero trust aspect is called the zero trust learning curve. And I don't know if you've ever seen, it's published. John Kindervag put this together. It's published on, I think Palo Alto Networks has this published. It's the zero trust learning curve. And zero trust is so different. And if you haven't embraced or understand zero trust, I would encourage you to do that first, because you need to understand all the differences that it brings to be able to effectively apply it to agentic AI. And one of the differences is it's not your attack surface, right? How do you protect against the attack surface? I don't know. It's everything. How do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time, right? One bite at a time, step by step. Flip it. Don't worry about your attack surfaces. Worry about your protect surfaces. What do you need to protect first? Well, I don't know. What are my protect surfaces? Stack rank your assets based on criticality to the business and protect the very first most critical asset. Take that, and don't just apply a zero trust model like you know everything off the gate. Do a learning protect surface, and then do a practice protect surface. Go through the 5 steps that we constantly talk about in Cloud Security Alliance, which is define the protect surface, map the transaction flows, design your zero trust architecture. Where do you put policy decision points and policy enforcement points? Build your policy and monitor and maintain. Those 5 steps you repeat for every protect surface, and you get good at this. You build momentum, and you start to move faster and apply more effective, fine-grained, least privileged security to each of your protect surfaces. An AI agent is just another protect surface that actually thinks on its own. You have to apply that same mindset. So that takes leadership again to tolerate the lessons that we need to go through, and the patience, and also the courage. I'm big on leadership, Stu. I think the other part that I see is the company's getting real ROI with AI today. It's not because they're helping them write a better email or review that report quicker. It's because they're bold enough and courageous enough to reimagine how work gets done, to decompose business processes and examine each step in the value stream to say, with the capabilities of AI and agentic AI, would I do this the same way? Yeah. And if you go through that step, and if you go through that process, you'll sometimes eliminate entire business processes, create brand new business processes. You really, you accelerate the business's ability to deliver value. And a lot of leaders don't, how do you go against cultural inertia? How do you go like, this is the way we've always done it? Well, guess what? Things have changed, and you have to be bold and courageous. And sometimes you have to admit you don't know how work gets done, but you're going to do it anyway. You're going to break that down.
I always like the process from a leadership perspective of, if you want to 10x your business, it's actually easier than 2xing your business, because when you try and double your business, you're just like, hey, we need to just do more of what we're doing and do it a bit better. When you're trying to 10x your business, you have to rethink and reinvent every process, every every workflow, etc. So it is like, I think as you start to think about it and make bold swings and take like big risks, like if you really want to lean into this, yeah, like some business processes and some departments, they might be obsolete, they might be repurposed, they might be rethought. But I would also love your take, because we did discuss this a little bit when we prepared. The businesses that are doing good things with AI, are they hiring or laying people off?
They can't hire fast enough. The businesses that are using AI at scale in earnest have, I think, a few conditions are going on. I mean, you're generating more output, right? More output means more human discretion, more human judgment, more human taste is needed. More output creates more work. It doesn't create less work. And the robots can't do all of this stuff. I mean, sure, they can automate tasks. They can't really automate jobs. Like part of your job is discretion and judgment and seeing things in ways that LLMs, at least as of right now, can't. So I think the folks using AI and agentic AI to automate tasks and accelerate their ability to deliver value need more humans than ever, because they're not only increasing the output, but we've commoditized yesterday's intelligence. I love how Dan Schipper put this in one of his podcasts from Every. LLMs have commoditized yesterday's intelligence. So now everybody's floor has raised. Everybody has access to yesterday's intelligence. And so now we're all able to build on that. But if you've ever used it, you'll know that, yeah, it's pretty good. But I've got to polish it. It generates some stuff that's pretty good, but I've got to add my own expertise to really make it effective. So we've raised the floor, but the need for experts has multiplied. So you need more experts. You need more humans to deal with the output. You need more judgment. And every company I talk to that's really doing anything with AI, they have more headcount now than ever. And even, I mean, Conor mentioned the elimination of jobs, sure. And maybe I would say the elimination of tasks. And sometimes a job is full of tasks that AI can do. But look at what IKEA did, right? With their customer service. They used AI to automate a lot of their customer service, but they found there was a pattern or a trend that customer service was seeing with designing. They kept having these other questions. So they were smart enough to say, we're going to use AI to automate some of the mundane parts of the tasks of your job. But the patterns that you're seeing, what else can we do? And they formed a whole new business unit. It's making $2 billion a year, brand new business unit, brand new revenue stream that would have never had by repurposing people to focus on trends that machines would never have seen.
I love that, Josh. That is a great anecdote. On this podcast, we call it the courage to lead. Is the courage to grow is the phrase that we use. Do you have the courage to grow, or are you just trying to compress your operating costs? And like, that's the difference. Like, we're either going to have a huge explosion when we zoom out, either we're going to have incredible growth across our industry, across many different sectors, because collectively we have the courage to grow, create new categories, offer new services, make new products, or it's going to get really bad because we're going to focus on yesterday's economy and we're just going to try and squeeze every drop out of it.
You've always spoken quite strongly on this, Conor, which was like, why do we need to do more with less when we can do even more with more? And I think like it's strange that people don't see that, but obviously we live in a world driven by quarterly earnings, which doesn't necessarily lead to the best long-term outcomes. A business like IKEA that's probably less driven by quarterly shareholder revenues, like no doubt that's part of it, but that has the courage to repurpose and reallocate. And actually, like, most people are more brilliant than we give them credit for in organizations. They just lack the motivation and sometimes the courage to go and be brilliant. And I think, like, from my perspective, if you know, someone in a customer service role may have a greater purpose, they just haven't discovered it yet. And not to undersell customer service, like, it is so very important. And like, I look at some of the best experience with any brands that I've touched, and actually, like, customer service is why I've stayed and been loyal. So I'm not underselling it by any means, but I do think we have such wonderful people, and that ability to repurpose and create is such a wonderful thing to do. And, you know, to your point, Josh, and yours, Conor, like, I think they're the businesses, those ones that take swings, that will win.
I love that, Stu. I want to say the right use of AI amplifies what makes us uniquely human, and the demand for what makes us uniquely human even more. To your point about customer service, when I find really good customer service people, I want to hire them.
Same.
Because it's a mindset, and they think creatively how to satisfy the customer. And sure, you can automate some of the tasks that they do to do that, but amplify what makes them uniquely human in a way that amplifies their ability to care and their ability to satisfy. Give them tools to amplify that ability. Now, like you said, you're 10xing, you're not just cost savings, you're actually adding whole new dimensions of customer service, like a whole new design center, or whatever the case may be. I think no human, including customer service, wants to do mundane, mind-numbing things. That what makes us uniquely human is what I see AI amplifying, and I think it's really exciting. It frees up cognitive load to do that.
I'll give a good anecdote that I saw the other day as well. 7 AI, the folks up in Boston, I think the CEO had such a wonderful experience at a restaurant that he hired one of the services like a chief of staff or head of ops because it was that good. And I do think, again, going back to the point, but that ability to understand and give great service to your customers as intelligence rises, right? And that's not that, the service is going to be what takes us further now. So I do think that is a really interesting point of those people that have the access as the floor is raised. It's going to be super exciting time for everyone.
So, Josh, as we start to land this plane here and wrap, I've got 2 really nerdy technical CISO questions coming your way. Okay, so we can do some rapid fire on this. I want to get your take on 2 things real fast before I let you go. Because like I said, this entire podcast episode was very self-serving. So the first one is, I see so many people in the enterprise trying to make this transition from the generative AI way of governance to the agentic way. And I've described it in internal documents, external, publicly, that there's this idea of difference between is your AI augmented? Is it semi-autonomous or autonomous? And I'm just kind of curious, when we look at zero trust, a lot of organizations still are basically at the Claude co-work stage, where we've got AI working with my personal credentials. Is there a world for zero trust in that universe? And how to. And my second question was, I wanted to get your commentary on Anthropic's release. They just dropped a zero trust for AI agents, and I thought there was a lot of overlap there, and I wanted to get your take on what they published out. So, if you don't mind, those 2.
Yeah, I think to your first question, it's start wherever you are. Just start. And again, I love how John Kindervag makes these things so simple. You don't need to overcomplicate this. Just start somewhere and start with a protect surface and just iterate and learn and get better. It's no different than with AI. And I would say for agentic, no matter what level of agents you're using, if it's operating in cowork or it's a full, independently operating set of containers in Kubernetes that are self-scaling in a swarm or operating as a control tower, which are, by the way, 2 very effective scaling techniques for AI agents. You still need to just start simple and look at what it is where you're wasting time. Where you remember value stream mapping, or back in the 80s was business process reengineering. That was the big thing. It's that time again, because examining where your people are in a wait state or a waste state, for a given business process, for anything in your value stream, what's the biggest wait state, or what's the biggest waste, value added time versus waste time? Just take a swing. It doesn't have to be perfect. Find where some of your biggest waste is and see how agentic AI can help with that. And it shouldn't be the most business critical thing that you start with, right? You want to start somewhere, but don't start with something that's going to bring your business down. You got to learn. Start with an intern level autonomy. Try to take a swing at implementing it. If it's co-work, fine. If it's raw Python code, that's fine too. If you're using some, LangGraph framework, that's fine too. Wherever you are, doesn't matter. You can do no code, some code, low code, full code. Just start somewhere. Find a use case that has some visibility, that is visible enough to declare some value, to declare a win, but not so impactful it can destroy the business, and just try it. And sure, maybe you're going to delegate your own identity at first. Like you said, you're running Claude Code or Claude Cowork, and it's under your ID. Okay, sure. For the prototype, do that. But this is where security needs to jump in. And this is the sad truth that what is 86, this report Gravity came out with 86% of AI agents are shipping without security involvement. 86%. That's why security needs to raise their hand and say, yes, I can, and I will help you. And because you'll help these folks not only deliver value to the business, you'll help them do it right where they can get into production. And they need your help to do it right. They need your help to say, well, I'm delegating my identity to Claude Cowork right now to get this done. Should it run as my identity all the way into production? It's like, oh no, we have identity platforms in that. We use Entra as identity platform, or we're going to use Spiffy Spire for that. Like, we're going to generate unique identities that we can assign least privilege fine-grained access controls to AI agents separately than your human ID. But you're not going to do that on day one. Like, just prove some value, eliminate some waste, declare a victory, but get security involved. And if you're a security leader, jump in and raise your hand and say, I want to get involved. I want to help us do AI. Throw an amnesty week, non-sanctioned AI apps. Everybody come out of the corner without punishment. I just want to know what you're doing, how you're doing it, so I can help you do it better.
If you take one thing today, actually, like, that's a really good digestible takeaway.
the amnesty week.
Yeah, it's great.
To the Anthropic part, I love their new ebook. A couple weeks ago, right? Zero Trust for AI Agents. Love it. And it's funny because when I looked at, I just did if you're going to the Cloud Security Alliance Agentic AI Summit at the end of June, I did a presentation that crosswalks their ebook with the Agentic Trust Framework. The gist of it is, we came at this whole thing from opposite ends. Like, Anthropic was grades the environment. They have foundational to optimized. Agentic Trust Framework grades the agent from intern to principal. So Agentic Trust Framework picks which obligations apply for autonomy, and Anthropic picks how strong each is built at the environment tier. So they fit together quite well. And something they said that I would love to leave folks with as well, what they say in their ebook is impossible, not tedious, a design principle. If you don't want your agent to do something, make it completely impossible, not full of friction. Don't make it tedious, because it doesn't care about tediousness. It's going to work right through it. Make it impossible. And I like to call that containment over enumeration, especially with Mythos and the machine speed identification and exploitation. Enumerating your vulnerabilities isn't as important as containment these days. So containment over enumeration, impossible over tedious. Love the Zero Trust for AI Agents ebook. I recommend everybody read it. It's really good.
And with that, Josh, thank you so much for coming on the pod today. Josh Woodruff is the creator of the Agentic Trust Framework, the co-chair of the Cloud Security Alliance for Zero Trust Working Group, the founding chair of the CSAI Foundation, the co-author of the Agentic AI plus Zero Trust, written alongside John Kindervag, who actually coined the term Zero Trust himself. So, Josh, thank you again so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Conor and Stu. Great to be here.
If today's conversation gave you something useful, a framework, a question worth sitting with, a way to position something you're already dealing with, that's the point. Connect with Conor and I on LinkedIn. The links are in the show notes. Tell us what landed.
And if you know another security leader who's navigating the same pressure, text them this episode. We'll see you next time.
Resonate.